Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for being here. Bonjour tout le monde. Merci beaucoup d'être avec nous aujourd'hui. Juste préparer mes petites choses. All right. Alors, bonjour à tous et à toutes. En tant qu'Ombudsman des contribuables du Canada, je suis très fier de publier mon rapport annuel de 23-24. Ce rapport annuel met en évidence les principales réalisations de mon bureau, cerne les enjeux liés au service à l'Agence du revenu du Canada et décrit des tendances dans les plaintes que nous avons reçues de la part des Canadiens et Canadiennes concernant le service qu'ils ont reçu de l'Agence. Il comprend également 3 recommandations à l'intention de la ministre du Revenu national et de la présidente du conseil de direction afin d'améliorer les services offerts aux Canadiens et Canadiennes. Avec ces recommandations, nous visons à rendre les services de l'Agence plus accessibles à tous au Canada. Une grande partie du rapport est axée sur les efforts déployés par l'Agence pour administrer les prestations et les crédits de façon équitable. Nous examinons de plus près le travail de l'Agence au cours du dernier exercice pour communiquer avec les populations vulnérables et difficiles à joindre et pour sensibiliser les gens aux avantages de produire une déclaration de revenus et de prestations. Ces prestations peuvent changer la vie de ceux qui les reçoivent. Il est donc important que les bénéficiaires produisent leur déclaration à temps, chaque année, afin de s'assurer que les paiements ne sont pas retardés ou interrompus. Nous ne savons pas encore combien de personnes ne produisent pas de déclaration chaque année, mais nous savons, selon les renseignements que nous avons reçus d'experts et d'organismes communautaires qui travaillent avec des populations vulnérables, qu'il y a un grand nombre de Canadiens et Canadiennes qui ne reçoivent pas les prestations auxquelles ils ont droit. Certains experts estiment qu'ils représentent de 10 à 12 % des Canadiens et Canadiennes actifs. Voilà pourquoi j'ai fait une recommandation en ce sens dans mon rapport annuel de l'année dernière. Nous savons tous que le régime fiscal du Canada peut être compliqué et tout le monde n'a pas les ressources nécessaires pour en apprendre davantage sur la production d'une déclaration et les mesures de soutien que la production peut débloquer. Il est donc impératif que l'Agence communique avec les non-déclarants potentiels pour s'assurer qu'ils reçoivent les paiements et les crédits conçus pour les soutenir. Au cours des dernières années, notre bureau a reçu des mises à jour périodiques de l'Agence sur les diverses initiatives qu'elle a mises en place ou qui sont en cours d'élaboration pour aider les populations vulnérables, en particulier les non-déclarants. Notre rapport annuel examine de plus près ces initiatives. Par exemple, le budget de 2023 indiquait que le gouvernement fédéral triplerait presque le nombre de Canadiens et Canadiennes admissibles au service « Produire ma déclaration » de l'Agence d'ici 2025 et que l'Agence mettrait à l'essai un nouveau service de production automatique pour aider les non-déclarants vulnérables à recevoir les prestations auxquelles ils ont droit. En réponse de cela, la ministre a annoncé en mars 2024 que l'Agence élargisserait le service déclaré simplement par téléphone afin de doubler sa portée comparativement à 2023. Notre rapport examine les répercussions que les plans de l'Agence, pour répondre au budget de 2023, pourraient avoir pour un plus grand nombre encore de personnes. Le rapport examine également les initiatives suivantes. Les supercomptoirs, qui offrent aux visiteurs un point de contact unique pour obtenir de l'aide avec les services gouvernementaux importants offerts par Service Canada et l'Agence, les activités de visibilité de l'Agence auprès des organismes qui desservent des segments vulnérables de la population. Nous examinons en particulier le programme communautaire des bénévoles en matière d'impôts, le PCBMI, et le service d'aide en impôts, le programme des bénévoles, le SAIPB, au Québec. Grâce à ce programme, des milliers de bénévoles d'organismes communautaires de partout au Canada aident les personnes admissibles en remplissant et en produisant leurs déclarations gratuitement. Pour être admissible à la production de déclarations gratuites, les particuliers doivent avoir un revenu modeste et une situation fiscale simple. Grâce à notre collaboration avec le secteur des organismes à but non lucratif, nous avons entendu parler des défis auxquels les travailleurs indépendants sont confrontés, surtout dans l'économie à la demande. Bien que ces personnes aient un revenu modeste, elles ne pouvaient pas nécessairement accéder au PCBMI ou au SAIPB. Nous avons donc formulé la recommandation suivante. Je recommande que l'Agence définisse les critères d'admissibilité pour le programme communautaire des bénévoles en matière d'impôts, le PCBMI, et le service d'aide en impôts, le programme des bénévoles du Québec, afin de permettre aux travailleurs indépendants à revenus modestes et aux dépenses simples d'accéder à des comptoirs d'impôts gratuits où un tel service peut être offert. Je suis heureux d'annoncer que la ministre a accepté cette recommandation et que l'Agence apportera des changements aux critères d'admissibilité publiés pour inclure certains travailleurs autonomes en février 2025. Nous avons également examiné la subvention du PCBMI, qui a commencé comme un programme pilote de 3 ans visant à aider les organismes à assumer les dépenses associées à la tenue de comptoirs d'impôts gratuits. Compte tenu de l'importance de ces programmes pour de nombreux contribuables, nous avons vu comment le fait de rendre le financement permanent pourrait aider ces organismes à faire croître leurs programmes. Par conséquent, nous avons recommandé que l'Agence effectue ce qui suit. Offrir un programme de subvention permanent aux organismes qui participent au PCBMI et B. Continuer à fournir des montants de subventions supplémentaires à ceux qui desservent les collectivités autochtones et aux organismes qui exercent leurs activités dans les collectivités du Nord, rurales et éloignées. La ministre est d'accord, en principe, car l'Agence reconnaît le succès de son projet pilote de subvention du PCBMI et qu'elle continuera, en 2025, de demander du financement pour la subvention, y compris des montants supplémentaires pour les organisations qui servent les collectivités autochtones et nordiques, ainsi que d'autres populations mal desservies, comme les collectivités rurales et éloignées. As for our daily operations, we noticed several trends in complaint related to the CRA service issue. Collection action. The CRA fully resumed collection activities in February 2023 after putting them on hold during the COVID-19 pandemic. When compared with the previous fiscal year, April 1st, 2022 to March 31st, 2023, this fiscal year saw more than double the number of complaints and more than triple the number of inquiries related to a CRA collection issue. Second, delays in receiving notice of assessment and refunds. We heard that the CRA was taking too long to process income tax and benefit returns and send the related notices of assessment. 3. Delays in obtaining the Canada Child Benefit, the CCB. We heard from many Canadians who said they experienced CRA delays in processing their CCB application and in verifying their eligibility. We also heard from Canadians that they received benefits late due to the CRA delays in processing their income tax and benefit returns. 4. Delays in resolving service complaints. The CRA's service standard to resolve complaints is 30 business days from when they receive it. We heard from taxpayers who said the CRA took much longer and were not satisfied with the length of time the CRA took to respond. 5. Quality of service provided by CRA contact centers. This trend is an ongoing issue that has seen a lot of traction in the media recently. Back in December 2023, the Office of the Auditor General stated that they would be revisiting their 2017 report about CRA contact centers. For our office, this is an issue that we continually monitor as we regularly receive complaints on this topic. Some of these issues raised related to excessive wait time, receiving conflicting or inconsistent information, agent behavior, and calls being dropped prematurely. We have made recommendations in the past to encourage improvement of the contact center's services. In fact, at the end of this past fiscal year, we announced that the CRA had stopped restricting calls based on the caller's area code in response to our request for service improvement. In our report, we take the next step from this request for service improvement. We found that the CRA's call center's hours are very Eastern-centric. This is understandable, as a large percentage of the population lives in the Eastern time zone. However, this is not fair for Canadians living outside of this time zone. We therefore recommended that the CRA actively work to harmonize the operating hours of the service it provides so that residents across the country receive equal hours of service during the same operating hours, depending on the various time zones in the country, to ensure equal availability of services to residents across the country. Again, the ministers agree with this recommendation, though it will take some time to review and analyze the implication of further harmonizing across the country the operating hours of its other services. Further discussions with the CRA seem necessary for the implementation of this recommendation. As with our previous recommendations, we will continue to monitor the CRA's progress to make sure they remain on the right track. Although our office's main focus is on individual complaints, through our outreach activities and our discussions with complainants, we can identify issues that could affect a greater number of people. When we identify such an issue, we request information from the CRA and conduct research and consultation to validate our concerns. As a result of this process, at the end of the previous fiscal year, we announced that we would be launching a systemic examination into delays in Canada child benefit payments for temporary residents. The examination will look into the CRA processing times, as well as information sharing between the CRA and Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada. It will also identify any service improvement that the CRA could make to ensure all temporary residents who are eligible for the CCB receive payments without interruption. In July of this year, we also launched a systemic examination into how the CRA administered the 2023 Bare Trust filing requirements. We will examine the clarity and timing of the CRA's communication and the cost of compliance issues for taxpayers and their representatives. The examination will look into whether the CRA respected service rights outlined in the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, including right number 6, you have the right to complete, accurate, clear, and timely information. Right number 10, you have the right to have the cost of compliance taken into account when administrating tax legislation. With this examination, we are looking to better understand the processes in place by speaking with stakeholders, including the CRA. We have already met with several stakeholders, and we plan to publish our findings for both examination by the end of March 2025, or sooner if we can. We did all this work under immense pressure. Our office can relate to the CRA's high volume of calls, as my office struggled to keep up with the number of calls coming in. Our team is very small in comparison to the CRA. Our intake team, which answers all the calls, is only of 6 people. With this small team, compared to last year, we received 66% more inquiries, 29% more complaints, and 54% more urgent requests. In fact, in the first 7 months of the 2023-2024 fiscal year, we received more inquiries than we received in the entire previous fiscal year. I would therefore like to finish by taking the opportunity to thank everyone at our office. I acknowledge that times have been difficult and that the workload has sometimes felt overwhelming, but the impact we have on Canadians' lives cannot be overstated. Not only have we helped individuals navigate service issues with the CRA, but we've been able to work towards making the tax system fair for everyone. Your hard work has not gone unnoticed. Thank you for listening, and I remain at your disposal in the official language of your choice for any question you may have.
Thank you very much. We'll now move to the question and answer portion of this morning's news conference. We have no reporters in the room except for myself. I'm just going to check if there are any reporters online, if you could use the raise hand function on Zoom, and I can acknowledge you. I'm not sure if there are. I'll give it a second. Okay, seeing none, I will use moderator's privilege, I guess, to ask one question that I'm curious about. As you know, the current world events have led to a lot of debate at home about what is and is not an acceptable charity. And there have been, some instances of CRA very recently revoking the charitable status of high-profile charities, and concern that the charitable donation process in this country may or may not end up being politicized. And I'm curious about in the complaints you've been receiving, if you've heard any of that coming from people who feel that they're being discriminated against or unduly audited or reviewed by CRA because of the nature of their gifts, where they might be going.
Not in the past year. I would have to fact check this with staff. But to my knowledge, we have not received complaints. And I'll tell you why. It's because 2 years ago, we've issued a systemic examination on charities. And in it, it was expressly, and that examination was actually asked by former or then Minister Le Boutier at the time. And we try to find answers to issues such as you raised, but we weren't privy to that because we didn't have access to this kind of systemic examination, systemic information, the data that would have made us, that would have made it possible for us to have an examination in the proper sense of an ombudsman role. We've met so many stakeholders that were saying, well, there's clearly when there's smoke, there's fire. Well, I cannot just say that. It needs to be based on fact. So the fact that we weren't allowed, because of legislation, it's not just the CRA, but because of legislation, we weren't allowed to, and because we don't have the power to investigate under the OIC, for which I derives all the power of this office, we weren't allowed to have access to random cases where we could compare apple to apples. So it was more like hearsay, and I can't base an opinion on hearsay. So that's why it's a difficult challenge for us to go deeper into questions such as you raised about systemic discrimination in regards to one religious group or another. It's not just possible for us to have access to the files, and that would permit us to go deep and to see if they were treated differently than other files within the charity directorate. I hope that answers your questions.
No, it does. It does. Thank you very much. And seeing no other questions, I will thank you as well for appearing here today. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much.